Welcome back to our next vlog of our Purple Print Journey series. I am Joy, also known as Dr. Joy, and I'm going to be diving into some memories from 2024 and gathering whatever stories I can remember from there, from that experience, and giving whatever insights and things like that that I have been able to gain since moving from that space till now. And when I am recording, of course, I'm saying of course, but you may see this at any point in time. It is 2025 when I'm recording, right? So I'm at least like a year or more removed from some of the pictures that I'm going to be talking about today. So also my mindset and perspectives are going to be different than they were. So this is kind of like giving myself a little bit of a hindsight is 2020 chat that maybe other people are going to benefit from as well. If you have any parts of my journey that were maybe similar to the one that you are in right now, the space that you're in right now, that you're going into, that type of thing. What has been really helpful for me on this journey, I will say, is tapping into other people's stories and understandings of what people go through in their relationships, in their transitions, in their breakdowns, in their renewals. That has helped me feel like I'm not by myself, because a big part of the journey that I'm speaking about would often include, let's say, isolation, hermiting, being on your own. So who can you really ask about some of these things? Some of these things you don't even want to like say out loud because it feels embarrassing for negative things to happen to you. That's actually an interesting concept around a lot of stuff that has gone on in one of my relationships, which I would say I have a narcissist who is in my life because I have children with him. And so it's not something that I can just simply delete. But there are a lot of parts that we are able to delete and rearrange when we get tired enough, right? And so a big part of this journey for me has been managing smear campaigns, just illusions, ideas around who I am and who I'm supposed to be as a person in this patriarchal system, about who I'm supposed to be in this patriarchal system as a mother, as a citizen, as a therapist, as a lot of stuff, right? So the thing about it is there's a whole lot of shame stories that come along with the narratives of who we are supposed to be. And the way that we are kind of stuck in this mill, in this cycle, is that we're told we're not doing it right. We're not living up to the job that we signed up for, right? Like, you signed up for this mom job, and these are the things that moms do. So, according to your evaluation this year, you're not doing that. And so therefore we get to enact humiliation rituals. We get to do whatever we feel like we need to control you or put you back in a space where you're doing things the way that makes us comfortable. Okay. So the biggest part of a battle, of a journey, when you are in an isolating space or other people have decided to disconnect from you, is that turmoil, that mental turmoil of, I'm wrong, I have to be. If everyone is disconnected from me, or I've disconnected from everyone, like, I'm the problem. They all feel the same about the thing. But a big part of the problem is being in spaces where, yes, you are the problem because you are different, right? And we have to learn to recognize the spaces that we're in, and then also be empowered, find the empowerment, find the education, the resources to remove ourselves from spaces that we cannot necessarily just break apart and change. It's not that people cannot change, but people changing to a healthy degree when they've been so toxic, one, it takes a lot of time, and it's rare. It takes a self-motivation. But when you have a whole group of people who have kind of fallen in line with a story or a narrative, and it is easier for them to get along, to go along with the story, there's not a high investment in you enacting authentic self, because it comes at the cost of what feels like abandonment, right? I don't want to say it's a trick of the mind. You can really be abandoned, right? But I want us to understand that there is more than our nuclear family. There's more than the family we grew up with. There's more than the town we grew up in. There's more than the church that we grew up in. There's more. There's always more. And the biggest piece of power that any system has on us is convincing us that there isn't more, that this is the only island in all the islands in all the world. Like, this is it. There's nowhere else to be. There's nowhere else to breathe. There's nowhere else to flow. That's not true. So once you get that power and you realize like there really is more, there's a lot that you can do to escape, especially manipulative or narcissistic systems situation. Okay. Okay. So looking at where I was at here, my skin looks so fresh. So I remember at this point in time, I had gotten information from a sibling uh, around a medical thing that was potentially what I was being told was like a terminal thing. Okay. So I went back home to New York to be with my family member and all that type of stuff. And a lot of interesting things happened when I got to see my friend who I hadn't seen in forever, which was also nice because I was in that period of I had been disconnected from people where I was living in South Florida. And to be able to reconnect with my childhood friend, like I had seen her yesterday, it's such a relief. Like to remember that kind of love, to remember that kind of unconditional connection, right? That had nothing to do with money, had nothing to do with uh, who I was in the world. It was who we were in each other's world, right? And who we had continued to be for each other and our kids and all that type of stuff. So that was a really nice exhale. Okay. Even in the midst of going home for something that was upsetting, because I was really close to this family member, right? To think like, oh my gosh, something's gonna happen. Um, Long story short, I guess regarding at least that part would be that I recognized once I was there that if there was something terminal at some point in time, it wasn't when I was there, right? Like they apparently seemed to miraculously be okay. Now, I cannot say that it was made up what they said, but it was kind of throwing out major medical things or throwing out situations or stories that one knows will elicit a high level of emotion, compassion from me, empathy from me, right? And worry from me is something that is definitely utilized by a narcissistic manipulative system, right? Especially when you start to um, get too big for your britches. So a term that has been utilized for me since I was a child, I am now 45, right? I probably haven't heard it in the last 2 years because I've removed myself from those spaces, or maybe the last year or whatever. But my sister consistently never called me my name. Will all like, literally never call my name. It is just little girl. And that is something that I remember saying it to somebody years back, thinking it was funny, and then being like, that, like, oh, and they didn't want to say out loud, like, that's freaking weird. But it was clear, like, that's weird. And just registering a lot of the little things, the chokeholds that you have, it's like cues that you have in your family that remind you of your place. I was able, especially after removing myself from that space, like really recognizing like there were so many little um clicks and things like that, trapdoors to keep you in the space that you need to be so that everybody around you is comfortable. Right. So I remember getting there and again, my family member who said they were dying basically was like, oh, let's go to this restaurant. Let's go here. Let's drive around here. Like, what do you mean? I thought that you were on your deathbed. Like, I don't understand what's happening. And it wasn't that at all. Um, it just, yes, it was more like cry for attention and whatever other manipulative things were going on in that space. I won't dive too much deep into, but I do want to point out stuff like that, like our language, how we speak to each other, and how it kind of keeps us in a trap, right? Like, because the first thing that I did when I was told this is I hopped on a plane, I stopped whatever I was doing, I rearranged my work so I could just be there with this person, just to realize that they didn't actually need me to be there. And it didn't matter to them what it cost me. Like hotels in New York at this point are like $500 a night. It didn't matter to them what it actually cost me to put my dogs with the dog sitters and to like all the things. Okay. Just for a very short trip for it to be something that wasn't even in the end real. Um, so when you come from spaces like that, like this is my family, right? It's not odd for you to then marry someone who's very similar to that language because it feels comfortable, not because it feels good, but because it feels comfortable. You understand it, you know how to navigate it, you know what the consequences are to people with this mindset. I didn't know what the word narcissist meant when I got married. Like that wasn't something in my vocabulary. I was pretty young, I was like 24. So it wasn't something that would register to me as I need to move away from this. I know that my partner maybe did it less than people in my family, and that might have felt like, oh, this is a vacation, right? But it still wasn't healthy. And that's something we'll definitely fall into. And again, there's no one to ask advice about, like, well, should they be talking to me like this or that? Because you talk to me like that. So of course you're good with me marrying somebody who talks to me in a certain way. I think it would almost agitate some of my family members that my husband was somewhat nice to me, because it's like if we're all used to talking to each other rough, like, oh, you're going to go to this soft space and you're going to expect us to talk to you soft, and we're not going to do that. But why not? Don't you want to talk to each other soft? No. Okay. Um, and I've never been able to be like a rough talker. I can, get back with you, but I don't initiate aggressive, insulting speaking. I don't see the purpose of it. Right. But that was an eye opener for me to kind of see some of like the heavier manipulation. And at this point, when I went back, my father was going to pass like 3 months later. So I think I mentioned in the last video, the last time I actually saw my father was the Thanksgiving that happened before this, where some weird things had happened there with like my life being on the line, like literally my life being on the line. And everyone wants to brush everything under the rug. It's just very weird energy was going on. And all I needed was support at this point in time, when I felt like the entire community had disappeared on me, right? I think I had talked to my sister about like what had happened with me finding out I was being like stalked in this yoga class, and how I had to cut the yoga class, and how I had to rearrange everything to be at home. And but there's no support around trying to do something like that. Like, you're a therapist, just do your therapy. You want to do these elevated extra things. It's not realistic, or it's not anything that we understand, or even worse, it's demonic, right? For me to do yoga was demonic. For me to do meditation was demonic, according to my family. And so I can't discuss what I'm discovering or what I'm doing, or even what's healing me. I would try to have conversations about, hey, do you want to be healed too? I would be so excited about getting these releases, right? And I remember a response from a family member saying, like, I don't want to be any more woke. No, you can keep it. Like, okay. Like, I literally want to stay in the discomfort I'm in, because it's more comfortable than trying to change these things. All right. So I have some pictures. I think at that point I had definitely signed to sell my house. I knew I was going to sell my house. I knew there was going to be a way out of stuff that was happening, like literally being stalked at my house. People are still to this day. I get stalking text messages, and not like the spammy messages where it's like I get that on my business phone, but I get the messages where people make it clear that they either know me, or they have like watched me, like they know my routine, they know the things I'm interested in, so they make it very clear. And I think at that point I had changed my phone number. I remember this. I changed my phone number specifically because of harassing texts I was getting. And so my sister puts my phone number in like an invitation thing for some party that was coming up, so that everybody had access to my phone number. It was definitely an intentional thing. Like, you can't have the privacy you're looking for. You can't have the protection you're looking for. You can't actually have the ease you're looking for. If we all have things going on in our lives that are uneaseful, that are that keep us stuck, like, we're not trying to do anything to make your perceived pressure easier. So me saying to my sister, my car's being tampered with, I'm literally being stalked, this and this is happening, I'm getting these phone calls, I'm getting these texts. So let me go ahead and make you uncomfortable again. Like, that was absolutely on purpose. Okay. I started when I came back to Florida after realizing it was kind of like a gag. Nobody was dying. It's fine. I really was like starting to do the blueprint for what was going to happen after I was able to sell the house. After I had left this job, I had already started my platform, my online support group platform. And so the beach is really, that became my sanctuary. So there's a bunch of photos on the beach where I would be like listening to meditation. I'd be listening to music, um, just be jamming out, really like just really trying to hear myself and hear what was coming up, via music, via the wind, the water, whatever the case may be, because it was just so disconcerting for all these weird things to be happening, right? So this became a part of my rituals to be really pulled into this space. By October, the house was sold. And by that point, I felt like pretty clear on what I was going to do. And I had made a very conscious decision to have somewhat of a nomadic experience. I was trying to decide between using money that I got to get what is it? Like a camper, or, a converted van or something like that. I'm like, I can live in my van. And I think I can. When this is something that I had talked about at some point in my life, it was always with a partner, and like going on this adventure with a partner. If something breaks, I can fix stuff, but it's just nicer when you're with a partner, when you're doing something that's new, right? So I decided, instead of at that point going with the van or the camper, was to be nomadic and stay at different spaces and explore different spaces. Still staying in South Florida, but going to different places in South Florida was going to be my plan, right? Maybe stay somewhere for like this many months or 1 month at a time, whatever the case may be. But I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on what I was going to do. Why would I want to do this? My entire life, and I'm sure a lot of us can attest to this, I have lived with someone, right? I lived with my mom, and then went to college, and then she passed, and then I lived with my sister for a very short period of time, and my dad for a short period of time, until basically I got engaged and I moved with my fiance at the time, and that, pretty much lived together up until we weren't together anymore. So that was about 12 years. And I think I had a short period of time of living on my own before I was in another long-term relationship, right? So, and that was about 7 years. That's a lot of years of living with people, which can sound strange. Like, well, like maybe people always live with people. And I'm sure a lot of people do always live with someone. But there is something beautiful about being able to be a mess privately. There's something to it. There's something to being able to make your decisions about where you're going to go and then change your mind at the very last second, and nobody gives you any crap about it. Maybe you give yourself crap about it. I don't know. But not having to think about how all your moves are being scrutinized. And I would say, because of the things that have been happening, where I grew to understand that my ex and his wife, like, they had this full on campaign of having my children bring back every bit of information about me to them. It changes stuff for you when you realize, like, you've been spied on for years. Like, people have literally been making notes and reports about how you live. Like, oh my gosh, right? So to be able to be on your own is nice. And I think the goal for anyone who is like harassing and stalking and those types of things is for you to never feel like you're on your own, for you to never feel like you're free, for you to never feel like you have actual privacy. And so what is privacy? And throughout this journey, and I'll probably talk about it in the next video more, I really had to learn to accept, right, that privacy is it is a privilege if you live in a space where other people also live, right? And we live in a place where we've made a community agreement for there to always be surveillance, and for us to have these little things that you can record people at any point in time. People can take a picture of you at any point in time. You can be doing anything in the world. You can be taking out a wedgie and somebody could take a picture. Like, there is not really that expectation for privacy. And that takes a little bit of rewiring of accepting it and then not caring, because it's a weapon that can be used against you to make you feel uncomfortable. But if you decide, after you're able to assess the safety of whoever's around you, like what their intentions are, but if you really understand that, like, every time you walk down the street, there's probably a neighbor who looks out their window. They might actually wait by their window because they know when you're going to walk down the street and they think you're cute, right? Like that is someone who is invading your privacy. They're watching how you walk. They're watching how you might dance to your music. They're watching your dog, like whatever. But when you accept that as a piece of the world and not necessarily a harmful thing in the world, it's less anxiety on you, right? Like, if you want to view what's happening for me, then view it. The problem comes in where people view stuff to use something against you, right? But if you are living the type of life that is viewable and not usable, it doesn't matter. There was nothing that I would do that I wouldn't want somebody to see. There was nothing that other than like being in my house, like I had mentioned earlier, being nude without giving permission for you to view me nude is a problem. That's a problem. But for the most part, if you know, people are watching to see if you're going to do something that is not in alignment with like what's legal or what a good person does or whatever the case may be. Even when my kids were there and bringing back information, it was never about like, oh my God, they told the secret that they should have never told. It was just out of respect. And again, privacy, like that's not what we do. We don't scoop information out from one space and bring it to another space. But if I want to live in a world where people can't hold stuff against me, or not even that, I want to live in a world where I just have easy access to peace when I want to grab at it. One of those ways for me to access peace is to stop playing by the rules of your game. Stop trying to make sure you don't get this or you don't consume this or you don't see this. You're the one who is in a space of wanting to view someone else, whether it is virtually, in person, whatever. That is the consumption for your life. My life is joy. My life is consumption and seeking of love and how to embody that. And embodying love and joy, embodying God does not include me trying to be so omniscient that I know all the time when you can see me. I'll just assume that you can see me. I don't know. And then I won't care. That's it. So that took a lot of power, I would say, and steam out of at least being able to navigate or control my emotions, which I feel like when people are watching and poking at you, doing the weird little comments or whatever, it is for the purpose of eliciting something uncomfortable in you. And so that took managing. Stop asking them like, why are they doing this? It doesn't matter. Because even if you had the answer of why they were doing it, it probably wouldn't even make sense to you. Because if you were a sane person trying to understand a non-sane person's reasoning, you can't because you're sane. Like it won't even make sense. And when you even get to the bottom of it, it'll just be frustrating and unsatisfying. Like that's it. It don't matter why. You know what I mean? You have to decide what about this matters. So, with everything that was going on consistently, that, me selling my house was a big part of that. Like people literally coming at me in a way where, one, I didn't feel like I had any like legal protection from my ex always sending stuff and pulling me into court, which he did. I didn't have protection. People, my car, even though, no, it wasn't a gated community, but security guard, it didn't matter. I didn't have protection with people having so much information. So that's like one of those limits, right? Understanding like about the privacy. Well, privacy is I don't want people to know, at least people that have proven to be a problem, to know my exact address. That also poured into me being nomadic and going to different spaces. I will tap into more of some of the stories and the realizations from that time, but I will say even with being nomadic, having people take my packages, having people take my little scooter, my little vehicle, it like making it clear, like I can see you, I know where you're going. Going to a Starbucks and having a coffee placed on the counter with my name on it from someone who has made a mobile order, maybe from their car, maybe from inside of Starbucks, but making me know, like, I see you. That was the thing that I had been battling this whole time, amongst other things. And people don't talk about what it is to be like getting stalked or to be stalked or harassed. And even when I Googled it, Google was not down. Google was like, the reason that influencers, whoever, don't talk about it is because people will think that they're crazy. Even if you have proof, people will think you're crazy and you'll lose your audience. Da, 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 da. I've never been an audience building person in that way. It's not, to me, I feel like I have a ritual, a duty, or whatever, if there's something that comes up, like an understanding that I get, a lesson that I get, right? I feel that it is my duty to put it together in the way that makes me feel good, like in some creative way, which would be like those the small spoken works of art that I do or the meditations. What is something that feeds my soul in this part of my realization of my journey, right? And create it and then put it out there. It's like each one teach one type of thing. And so that's how I kind of look at the experience where I'm taking what it is that what I can and I'm transmuting it into something that will be helpful for everybody, right? Not just something for me to be, whoa, is me. But for me to be afraid to speak about the things because I might lose an audience, well, then I guess you weren't supposed to get the message. You know what I mean? Like if a person leaves because they don't relate, then this is not a relatable space for you. And that's fine. That really is fine. But I know for a fact for me, it saved me for at least one person to be like, this is a similar experience. Like, oh my God, it's not just me. And I have no desire to not follow you or to not understand more of your journey because I think it will help me. And it did. And so pay it forward. So anyway, my birthday was probably days, maybe like a week before the house actually got like signed and I was out of the house and I started my nomad journey. But my birthday is a day that is pretty, it has always been big for me. I usually travel on my birthday. For my last two birthdays, I think I haven't been able to travel. Um, but up until then, I always traveled on my birthday. It always made a big thing of it. My birthday was one of those days that I knew that I was going to be like loved. I had a realization about like, why is my birthday such a big deal to me? It was probably the one day that my mom like didn't say no to anything. And she was pretty strict and she was, yeah, there were no, I wasn't humiliated on those days. I wasn't embarrassed on those days. I wasn't punished on it. Like, the things that would usually happen didn't happen on my birthday. And everyone around me always knew what my birthday meant to me. And so it was a super special understanding of my environment when it got to my birthday. And I think one person, maybe, no, maybe like three people, right, reached out on my birthday. And it, I don't know how to explain that feeling because I know that everyone's birthday does not feel the same. A lot of people I talk, most people are like, oh, my birthday's no big deal. I'm always like, I don't get that. So I know that a lot of you may not understand it because if I don't understand you, you're probably not going to understand me about it. But that is like a slap in the face to me, you know? Like some people feel like, how could you not say Merry Christmas? To me, my birthday is a national holiday. In my mind, my actual birthday is not a national holiday, but in my mind, it is. And for you to just like disrespect is like, that's totally intentional. Um, and I'm not saying that it is always intentional. I'm not saying that it is intentional at all, but um, it is at minimal careless, right? When I know that people in my life care about a certain thing, I care about it. Not meaning I'm trying to go to the rally that you like without you for the thing that you rally on, right? But if you have a rally and you need to get a certain amount of tickets or a certain amount of people to come with you, I will come, I will support you. It isn't, and it is important to me because it is important to you. It's important to me for you to find importance in things, right? And for you to continue to have it. So we should all support what you think is important. You know, doing a simple thing for your birthday, just saying happy birthday, recognizing you. But it was like what it felt like to me is daggers of like, I need you to understand that we will not recognize you. So all these things that happened, like the Thanksgiving things, the weird things had been happening, the text messages, all those, and me changing my phone number too. Now I gave my phone number to a short list of people. But even still, I'm trying to think, was that the birthday? Yeah. That was it. Yes, it is. Okay. Um, I don't know. I'm not gonna go too much more into the whole birthday thing, but that did happen during that time period. And so it's kind of like I launched my traveling yogi nomadic experience from a very, very clean slate. I was talking to my friend this morning and just saying how like everything feels and looks so different for me. The things that are important to me are like I can't even fathom. And I was like, I had so much, right? I had so much in terms of like funds, and I could do pretty much anything. I'm like, I don't understand where all the money even went. Like now that I'm living in a very, very, very different way. One, because I had to, but um now because I kind of want to, in terms of being more of a minimalist, like losing the things or being removed, I'll say, from what I was very much used to. Um, I had no choice but to look at the world in a different way. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for being able to feel today that I probably need a quarter of the things that I needed before. Like, what is entertainment? What are the things that we let fill our time? Um, what the heck was I buying with this money? Like, and I'm not like a brand person like that. Like, oh, I gotta have this. That's not it. But I would like experiences. I would like going on trips and that type of thing. Um, but even then, I'm just like, I don't understand. So I know this time around, this new starting from scratch, this new come up, this new glow up or whatever, this time around, the way that I look at finances is different, or the way that I handle it, right? Handling it with gratitude, first of all, but not scarcity at all. Like not scarcity. I know it's always going to come because it always does come. But I feel like I was almost like rude to money. Like I was not mindful of her and her energy and just throwing her all around, right? Like I want to treat money more sacred at this point in time. And to me, our money is our energy. It's an extension of our energy and our vibe, right? And um, I could be high vibing for a while, right? But if I was in an environment that was consistently scooping out a piece of my vibe, that was where my money was going. It was going with my vibe. It was going with the drama. It was going with the unnecessary um, roughness that was basically going on. So being in this space on my own, it's again, everything had to get real quiet for me to get real clear. Now, I'm going to get more into kind of what things started to turn and look like during this nomadic period in the next video that I do. But the main thing that I really wanted to look at here is this transition period yeah, from kind of recognizing where my family was at and where they were not at with me, recognizing some of the toxic traits of keeping us stuck in that loop. And selling my house was just a symptom or a symbol of really releasing everything that was attached to that life and starting over. I never wanted to sell my house. I thought I would be there. I thought, and also that idea of like you have to own something. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. Please, I'm not saying don't own something, don't invest your money, that type of thing. But there was a potential of me having a huge stronghold and staying in this very traumatic space where people were literally harassing me at my home, right? Because I made a promise that I was going to be better in this way, that I was going to own something. I wasn't going to be just throwing my money somewhere, or I was going to be able to tell people I own something. That was like the pinnacle of success, right? To tell people that you're a homeowner, you're this and that. And I had been a homeowner like 2 times before that. So this wasn't like the first time, but um, it, it was very much, again, connected to this identity of this material power and fluidity that I had, that I thought I needed to have in order to even have the relationships that I had, right? To be seen in a certain way. And I feel like a lot of that stuff was stripped away from me. So I could also rewire what are the real ingredients of having authentic relationships that are not connected to just your wealth. Our wealth is so much. You can have spiritual wealth, you can have physical wealth, you can have, financial wealth, right? You can all types of wealth. But when you realize that you are kind of skating on this surface thing in your relationships, that's not what you want anyway. But I don't know that I would have given up my relationships um, had I not seen a million like red flags and betrayals just like being blown in my face. It would have taken a lot for me to sell my house. So a lot happened that made me sell my house. Like a lot had to happen because I swore that was my little oasis in my garden. Like, oh my God, this was like the best space ever. Even the positioning of the property, right? Like it was everything, but clearly it wasn't. So we need to practice detaching from our material stuff. And this is not me saying I don't like things. I do like things. But at some point in time, there becomes like a numbing effect, or we're trying to numb by getting a new thing, having a new title, having a new asset. And that's what we become about, opposed to relationships, experiences, which is what we're here for. And I say relationships, I don't mean romantic relationships. I mean, we come here to relate with everybody, to barter with everybody, to learn from everybody. And how much can you do of that when you are distracted by the material stuff that money can absolutely get you, or the things that you can get other people? Your relationship also becomes based off of that. What can you do for me? Opposed to how are we growing with each other, right? That was going to be impossible for me to learn any of those things. And I'm not saying I've learned every single one of those things yet, but I've definitely learned how to create and cultivate relationships in such a different way, in such a more authentic way, now that my positioning is different than it was before, right? Being a nomad, making friends is very different than being in a space like, come to my house party and let's go travel. It's very different. So I'm really grateful for people that I have met along the way, people I've met in my community, people I've met at maybe events that I've done or attended, for reigniting and helping me remember that truth again, that this little fishbowl is not everything. There is more. I thank the heavens every day that I had the ability to travel from a really young age. My mother used to put me on a plane since I was 6 years old and go to see family and go, but it would be every summer. It would be very frequent where I was used to flying. Like there was never a year of my life after 6 that I did not fly somewhere. And I would fly alone with my little, they still were giving you the wings and the flight attendant and the captain and all the things. But I became really comfortable with coming out of my spaces and then engaging new people. I used to be so bothered. Oh my God. My mother sent me to camp every freaking summer, and oftentimes sleepaway camp, which I really hated because I like being in my room. But I was forced to engage with people that I would never have engaged with had I not gone to camp. You're not going to see them in your city. You have to go somewhere else and meet people from different countries, different languages, different cultures, all types of different backgrounds. When I would, going, I would hate it. But while I was there was always something impactful and significant that I would learn, either about my resilience or my ability to actually relate to people well, whether I wanted to or not. Like that is, okay, you start to understand your capacity, your capability to be a chameleon, which which to an extent I think is necessary for us to be adaptable. We talk about that last time as well, but not to the point where you're always just putting on a show and you're being the representative. I think I've learned a lot of that, and there was no correction. There's no one telling you like, don't be the fake person. It was always like, be accepted, especially being a person of color, growing up in a family business where we got through by giving off the essence of a business person, of really being white in brown skin. And I'm not saying, no, it didn't give off Black business. It gave off being able to emanate white business. And I'm saying that because we really took on so many of the characteristics of those that we saw, and we didn't see any Black businesses, right? So how do you even know how you do it and it aligns with your culture? And it wasn't about aligning with the culture. It was about being accepted. It was always about that. So even the way that I speak, the way that me and my cousins were raised to speak, like this was always about how to be accepted by that greater community and that type of thing. And so having to unlearn that after the years of moving through, I even went to an acting camp, for crying out loud, right? Like you're literally teaching me how to act after years of being trained. I don't want to say groomed, but because it is a good skill, but trained in that way. I could do either. I guess I could put on the representative, but it has always been difficult for me to do that, right? Um, yeah, it's difficult for me to stay with a mask. And we don't need to. Like who you are, like who you genuinely are, without intentions of doing a thing, but just intentions of being is, I'm sure, beautiful. I'm sure interesting. And it is exactly the formula of a being in person, if I bumped into you, that I was probably supposed to meet who you are, right? Um, what we are not is the property that we own. We are not even the things necessarily that we decide to do today. We decided to do it today, and then tomorrow we might decide something else. Who we are, our essence, is like when you are in a space mm, where there are no motivations to do anything, you have the option to engage people in one way or another. When there's no pressure around it, when there's no money behind it, there's no necessarily like gain behind how you're going to be, how you show up in those spaces, that like that's who you are, right? um yes. So I think that's pretty much all that I'm gonna have for us today. I'm trying to, like, it's hard sometimes when I'm trying to picture like what was happening during that time period and what was important and what I learned. And I could go on for like 3 hours being like, and then this happened. But more of the adventure is going to continue when I talk about the nomadic experience that happened pretty much after the birthday and what that was like to go to all of these different spaces in South Florida, which was it was wild and magical and mystical and then wild again. It continues to be magical and mystical, much less wild than it was months and months and months ago. But we'll tap more into that and kind of the lessons that I learned from being completely independent on my own, not knowing really anything about being a nomad, right? And still running business, running my healing process that continued to go on and does continue to go on, and still coming up with new ways of showing up in the world and being able to serve and give to the community. Okay. But really, mostly how I tapped back into, again, the purple print way, being more intuitive. So we'll continue to talk about those ways, like how to be more intuitive, how to listen more to your body, because the world is like a whole jungle out there. And so you have to have a point of, what's that word that I would say? You have to have a lighthouse inside of yourself. That's what you have to have. If you don't have a lighthouse inside of yourself, you will constantly be shipwrecked. You will constantly be crashing out. You will constantly be sinking. You will constantly be cold and longing for home. Home is here. That was really important during this nomadic thing. You got to take home with you. If you don't have that, you're a hot mess. Okay, but that's it for real, guys. I will talk to you next time.